afternoon, and welcome back to Coffee with a Kick. Champions League action done and dusted. Until next week, of course. But as a matter of fact, I think that these these rounds of 16 might be pretty interesting going into the reverse fixtures for some of them. We'll get to that in just a moment. How are you doing today, Keegan?
Well, I'm doing fine other than the fact that I did not do too hot on my Champions League picks. Round of 16, there's typically always a few shockers. And as we'll talk about, there are some teams that could move on that I was not expecting to move on.
Not expecting at all. So, that does remind me, though, that we forgot to review where we currently are for our Champions League picks from the group stages. I am a even keel 48 and 48 after our group stages, with my best group being Group G, Manchester City's group, because theirs were very easy. My worst being Group B, our group of Sevilla, Arsenal, PSV, and Lens. That one was a tricky group for me. Only 4 and 8, 9 and 3 for the Group G. For you, not faring so well, 45 and 51 in total. In Group F, you went an impressive 1 and 11. You only got one group of death pick right the whole time. So that's pretty cool. That's actually pretty cool for you. Newcastle, a perfect 0 for 6. And Dortmund, a perfect 0 for 6. I actually had 2 that I was 6 and 0 on. The Manchester City, which you got one of them wrong. You thought they were going to draw Leipzig, I believe it was. No, you said they were going to draw Young Boys on the home fixtures, what it looks like, if I'm remembering correctly.
It was the last match day. They were playing Young Boys. I was thinking we were going to put our Young Boys out there, and we didn't.
Yes.
So
second to last. The last match day it's Red Star Belgrade. Right. Real Madrid, I also got 6 and 0. You had a couple 5 and 1s, but yeah, we're hoping to pick it up here. See if we can get you back to even keel by the end of the knockout stages. Like you said, not looking great so far. That'll just bring us right into it. First match day for Tuesday, we had RB Leipzig taking on Real Madrid there in the runner-up of Group G, winner of Group C match. And then Copenhagen hosted Manchester City, runner-up of Group A and winner of Group G. I said that Real Madrid and City would win. They did. You said that RB Leipzig would win and City would win, and only one of those was correct. The City match was pretty interesting in the first half. It was actually quite similar to the weekend for Man City, where it was kind of an even match, but then you got the stoppage time first half goal, and you felt the click of momentum for City, and then they essentially coasted the whole second half, really eating up. I mean, they had 75% possession, and not a lot of quality attempts that they had there. Just a lot of killing time, it felt like.
Yeah, De Bruyne's 10th minute goal. I felt pretty good about my assumption that we were just going to slaughter him in the first half.
It did look like that initially.
But then it's like we got the goal, and then we decided that we were just going to chill. And then Copenhagen scored, and it was like, oh no, we're at home. The home crowd's back into it. Silva's goal right before half was pretty important. I don't know. Yeah, the 13 shots on target is very misleading. Because like you said, I think probably 5 or 6 of those were just duds. Yeah. Just kind of either falling to the keeper, a deflection that rolled to him. So overall, they got the win, but it wasn't pretty in the first half, really.
No. The home side did keep their team in it for a long time. Even in the second half, they had them in it. They never felt like they were doing anything, but it was at least interesting enough for them not to empty that. And then Foden's 90+2 just kind of iced it away for sure. It was inconsequential, really. And then to the RBL Real Madrid match. This one was actually quite contested. Both 51-49 split between Real and Leipzig, respectively. 15 attempts for both, but 9 saves for the Real Madrid goalkeeper. I mean, it was a back and forth match for the most part. Not a lot of offensive production, obviously, with a 1-0 victory for Real Madrid. But they kind of sat back after they got their 48th minute goal, and they took a lot of punches.
Yeah, I mean, for a majority of the match, it was just when will Leipzig score.
Yeah.
I was not expecting them to get shut out at all. Like, those were quality saves. They weren't just like city shots against Copenhagen. They were genuinely like good shots, and that was a head scratcher for me because Leipzig, I think, was the better team.
Yeah.
As far as flow, getting into the final third, but yeah, I mean, they just could not finish.
Nah, it was tough for Leipzig, yeah, because they were looking good, and it would have been. I mean, only giving up one away goal is pretty huge, though, because then if you can win, even if they score on the reverse fixture, if you just win 2-1, automatically through. Don't have to worry about penalties or anything like that. So we'll see. It is 3 weeks until the next match. So you said that it was a high ankle sprain for golly, what's his face? Bellingham. So he might be back for that one. It'll be.
So a note to say is that last year they got rid of the away goal rule. That's
not a tiebreaker anymore.
It's not a tiebreaker anymore. So the away goal actually does not carry as much weight as it used to.
Okay. So now if they just go straight to extra time if it's drawn on aggregate.
Yep. So even if it was the 2-1 scenario, it'd still go to overtime or extra time.
Yeah. I get it. I get it conceptually because they want more soccer. That's what they want. They want more soccer. So they're like, hey, why don't we just get rid of this tiebreaker? Even though it's like kind of makes sense because we want to have more extra time. We want to have more shootouts because that is exciting. I mean, the last World Cup was incredible kind of because of that. Really good. I'm sad we missed that. And then we go to the Wednesday action with our second half of the match day. No redeeming qualities as far as our picks are concerned. We both missed both of them. We both thought that Bayern would win. I thought the other one would be a draw, a 1-1 draw. You thought that Sociedad would win 2-0. Got that one backwards because what did you say? Well, the Real Sociedad one, very different halves. In the first half, it was a lot of Real Sociedad, a lot of possession, and PSG looked flat. But they come out banging in the second half, man. They looked good. And then the one guy you said they had to worry about, if PSG goes the way Mbappe goes, turns out that's true because he got the goal there in the 58th minute, and it was incessant from PSG essentially the rest of the half. They got a second one in the 70th minute with Barcola, and they just kind of coasted out from there. And Real Sociedad really didn't get anything going in the second half at all.
First half, Sociedad stayed true to who they are. Really solid defense, try to get possession back, kind of lull the other team into like a lazy defense almost. And like, they didn't get any shots on target, but they looked a lot better. And it was like the second half, I don't know, they came out rattled. Like, they did not look comfortable in the second half.
Yes.
And the Mbappe goal was inevitable. Mm-hmm. And then also the Barcola goal was inevitable. So it felt like second half they came out a different team than they were in the first half. It was strange. Yeah. So reverse fixture will be interesting to see how they respond.
Yeah, it will be. See if that home side can keep them in it because, Real Sociedad looked good going. My draw looked good going into halftime. It was going to be a 0-0 draw, which I'm fine with. But we will go to the other match, which unexpectedly had another team accrue 0 shots on goal, I believe. Let me double check myself here. Yeah, another team ending up with 0 shots on goal. However, this was Bayern. Bayern Munich ending up with 0 shots on goal the entire match against Lazio, which they pretty much controlled. I mean, they didn't really have much of an attack. It was a very, there was the red card in the 67th minute for Upamecano. Upamecano was earned. I mean, he stamped a dude in the box and gave them their goal, Lazio their goal. And that was basically it. The whole match was Lazio getting that penalty. There were only 3 other shots on goal. The rest of the match, and they were all from Lazio. It being a man down in the 60s, because even in the first half, there was nothing doing for Bain. I don't know where they were.
Yeah, you bring in Harry Kane to not let this kind of thing happen.
Yeah,
and I felt like he was non-existent. I mean, Lazio, if you play back the tape, they essentially played man-to-man defense on their top 4 guys. Mm-hmm. It felt like they always had someone marking them 24/7. Center backs were always squishing in on Kane, not giving him room. So, I mean, it was well worked as far as defense goes and just strategy. But, yeah, a team like Bayern getting no shots, I don't know if that's going to change at home.
Yeah.
Because Lazio didn't feel like their home crowd was that electric.
Right.
It didn't feel like they had that much of an advantage. So, I don't know. Lazio, I think they're just going to park the bus in the reverse fixture. They're just going to think, we just don't give up a goal and we'll win.
Yeah, so that one went definitely different than what we had thought. I thought that was going to be a goal fest, and it ended up being literally the exact opposite of that, except for it could have been, really the exact opposite of that, because even the goal was a penalty. It wasn't even a run-of-play goal. So, except for being a 0-0 draw, that's about as different as I could have expected it. But good on Lazio. Those are the 2 that went. Lazio going through would be a shocker, for sure, after Bayern Munich just swept their way through the group stages with 6 wins. The 2 seed, 2 seed, I think, because I think City had a better goal difference technically. I mean, it doesn't actually matter, but yeah, it's quite shocking that those set of results there. But that, I was 500 on the match day. You were 1-3, so not great. We'll try to get it better for the next one. We'll be back. For the programming note, we'll be back on Sunday with the recap. We'll be back on Monday. Tuesday, because we have a match on Monday. So Tuesday we'll have the recap for this weekend, plus predictions for the EPL midweek match, plus Champions League midweek action. So we'll get that double dose there on Tuesday. But why don't we go ahead and take our hop, skip, and jump into the Premier League predictions for this weekend. I
want to give a little segue and just talk about the news of the blue card.
Yes,
that is being thrown out there as potentially being implemented this season.
Really, I did not see that.
Well, they're already throwing it into other leagues. I think League 1, League 2, they're already going to start it this weekend. It looked like they were thrown into leagues almost immediately.
That's okay, and that is it's essentially an orange card, right? It's you get penalty boxed you get sin binned, I think is how they're putting it, for 20 minutes.
Yeah, if you know anything about hockey, it's basically the penalty box. You're in there for a certain amount of time. They let you back out there. The other team has the advantage. I don't know if I like it. I think that it's just going to give teams an excuse to maybe give a guy a rest. And there's not a yellow card is subjective, but there's something that's that's a yellow card.
Yeah.
Red card, some of it's subjective, but there's other that are objective. That's a red card. A blue card, that I don't really know what's around the blue card that makes it different than a yellow. It's going to be a growing pain process, really.
And it feels like a solution in search of a problem. I don't know why we're trying to reinvent the wheel here. And I guess it's to try to. So I think it's probably going to eat up marginal red cards. I don't think it will affect yellow cards at all. I think they're trying to eat up marginal red cards to keep more people on the pitch, is how I'm thinking through it right now. Because when you go down to 10 men, if you know it's temporary, you can it will basically kill momentum for 20 minutes rather than a whole match. So, boys, but did you just go? But what happens if it's the 72nd minute and you give somebody a blue card? So they're just down. He just won't come back on. They'll just be down to 10 for the rest of the match.
Supposedly, right now, the time frame is potentially 10 minutes.
10 minutes?
And I only know that because it was accompanied by a meme, and it was Casemiro, and it was every 10 minutes of the game he had gotten a blue card.
Oh, yeah.
But it'll be interesting to see, because if there's not lines that are telling the refs like exactly what a blue card offense is, then it's gonna get interesting, because is there more of a penalty if they already have a yellow card, then they get a blue card? Is it less of I don't know all the rules. It's going to be like VAR in the very first season, a ton of growing pains.
Yeah.
I don't see a necessary part for it, because I think if you do something so egregious that you have to leave the pitch, you probably should not come back.
Right.
So I don't know, but it was worth noting to just mention it, that it could be in the Premier League soon.
We will see. I mean, we will see. It'd be a weird change to make most of the way through a season. So I could see them implementing it for next one. I just feel like that's a big wrench to throw in. Not necessarily a wrench, but just a unknown to throw into a season where they're already having issues with VAR. Now, they've cleaned it up here since some of those issues earlier in the season. But it's definitely... They're just making problems for themselves, and it's unnecessary. But we will cross that bridge when we come to it, which may be soon rather than later. Regardless, we have picks to make. And oh boy, I am so ready for them. I think that I'm going to do so well. Am I just exuding confidence here? I think I am. I think I'm doing a great job. All right,
That's what I feel, yeah.
To Saturday, the 7:30 match. This one I do feel good about. Brentford hosts Liverpool at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time at G-Tech Community Stadium there in Brentford. I do have this one as a pretty tidy 3-1 victory for Liverpool. Liverpool's rolling pretty well right now. They're looking aggressive. They're looking fast. They're looking good. Since their little blip there with Arsenal 3-1, that was just a clash of titans. Other than that, they've been, aside from that, they had not lost since week 7 against Tottenham. So I think that they continue to roll here against Brentford, and I don't think the Bees put up much of an effort, even though they beat my Wolves last week.
Yeah, the Bees were buzzing last week, and it's really a scenario where the Bees are buzzing because they know they're about to go extinct. It's not because they're happy to be alive.
Oh, no.
It was just one last hurrah before they host Liverpool, who I believe will beat them 4-0.
Oh, boy. Really tough.
Because I picked it 4-0, Brentford's probably going to win 2-1. But Liverpool is coming to hijack the hive, to steal your honey, and to leave you as dead as you were before.
They're the Asian murder hornet to your American honeybee, trying to come and bite your head off. Yeah.
Lots of good, yeah.
Lots of good things for that. They are I won't go into another one. Let's see. And then next up, another one which I think will go pretty chalkily, if I can make a poor adverb. Burnley hosts Arsenal at Turf Moor. Now, Burnley could really use this one. Do you think they get anything out of this? After the 6-0 thrashing that Arsenal dealt out against West Ham?
Because Arsenal's Champions League game is on Wednesday, I think they'll probably put out a full side on Saturday. Mm-hmm. When I was looking at it, I thought maybe they'd put out a weaker side, but I think they go full side. I think Burnley possesses well, like they always do. I think Arsenal ends up winning 3-1. I'm going to actually pick Arsenal to win a match. And hopefully because I do that, they lose. I'm cool with losing that prediction. But yeah, I mean, Burnley will possess. They'll do that, but I don't think they have any finishing ability whatsoever to beat a team like Arsenal.
I see. You're now starting to try to the reverse psychology rather than just, instead of, what is it? Actualizing it. You're now just trying to reverse psychology, both the Liverpool and Arsenal picks. You're hedging. I've got this one similar. I think it's a little worse. I think it's 4-1 for Arsenal over Burnley, because Arsenal's looking really good and Burnley is Burnley. They looked fine against Fulham, but it's tough being Burnley right now. down at 13 points. You're just trying not to drop below Sheffield United at this point.
Amen.
Yeah, not the worst streak we have going as far as win list is concerned. I'll get to them in a minute. Much later. They're late this week. But I don't have any confidence in Burnley. The only saving grace may be that they possess enough that they don't get beaten 4-1. That's really all they've got hope for. And then 2, Fulham and Aston Villa. Now, Fulham is looking better. The 2-2 draw against Burnley was not good, but they look good against Bournemouth. And Aston Villa, they're pretty sketchy after the Christmas break, after that international break there. Rather up and down. And I don't know how much confidence we should have in them at this point. I've got it as a 2-2 draw for Fulham at home. You've talked about it before that Fulham is really showing out at home this season, and that's kind of what's saving them. I think they get a point here against Aston Villa, who will be disappointed to not get 3 points.
Yeah, I have it as 1-1. I think Aston Villa is going to feel like they have to get something. Yeah. They've lost 3 of their last 4, and their 1 win was Sheffield United. But, lost to Newcastle, Chelsea, Man U. Pretty solid run of games, but they're going to feel like they need to get something out of it. Fulham at home, I can't see them losing to a skidding side like Aston Villa. So 1-1 draw.
Yep. I think that's quite apropos of the situation. Then we go to those toonies. St. James's Park up in Newcastle. Newcastle versus Bournemouth. How do you think those Newcastle lads do?
Yeah, Newcastle's still dealing with quite a few attacking injuries. Mm-hmm. Isak is out, Joelinton is still out, Joe Willock is out, Callum Wilson's out, Jacob Murphy's out. Literally, their entire starting front line, besides Almiron from the beginning of the season, is currently riding the IR table. So it's going to be up to their defense. I think their defense has been playing well as of late, but Bournemouth does not have as many injuries as they do. And I think Bournemouth takes it 2-1. I think they can.
Really?
They can take it with. I just don't know where Newcastle's going to get their goals. Is Chris Wood going to come on smashing them in? I don't think so.
I don't know. Newcastle's been dealing fine. They've scored. They have scored at least 2 goals in every match this year. I think it's going back to December 28th was the last time they scored fewer than 2. 26th against Nottingham Forest. Since then, we got 2 goals, 2 goals, 3 goals, 4 goals, and 3 goals. So I actually have it as a 3-1 victory for Newcastle. Being at St. James's Park will help things out. Bournemouth they're on shaky ground recently. They just lost to Fulham, who was, struggling side themselves. Winless in their last 5 against decent sides, but their draws, the 2 draws that they had were to Nottingham Forest and West Ham, and Newcastle's better than both of those teams. So I think that they take it 3-1 and tidy up some things, take a few more points up towards the top of the table, and maybe start to put pressure on Manchester United. They're keeping pace with them at this point for the past 3. Well, they dropped some points there, but they could start putting pressure on that 5th placed Villa if Villa's not careful with Manchester United and Newcastle being revitalized here in recent weeks.
Yeah, I just don't know. This will be the first game without Callum Wilson. So that's the only reason why I think their goals may not come. But, they're in good form. So we'll just wait and see.
Yeah, and then we move. I don't know in which direction this goes from Newcastle. I think it goes west from Newcastle to Nottingham, but I have no idea off the top of my head.
No idea.
The City Ground, Nottingham Forest, and West Ham, my favorite team to pick for, because some reason I take West Ham Oh, no, Everton's my worst team. That's right. Everton, I don't feel like they are, but they are. Nottingham Forest and West Ham. I've got this one. I don't have any confidence in West Ham. And I don't have any confidence in my picks either. So I've got it as a 2-0 victory for Nottingham Forest. Kicks and giggles mostly. That's what I've got working here. I probably should pick for West Ham because they are the better side. But, losing your last 2 matches a combined 9-0 does not instill confidence if you're a person picking for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to end 1-1. I don't have confidence in either of these teams. Yeah. West Ham might be on the worst skid they've been on in probably David Moyes' tenure. Actually, there's one time where they almost got relegated. Outside of that relegation season, it's been pretty bad. I mean, even going back to, they lost to Bristol City in the FA Cup. And that game, they had their full squad. So something's off. I don't think they lose the full 3, but I think they draw.
Yeah, they've got 8 points out of the last 13 matches for Newcastle. Not for Newcastle, for Nottingham Forest. So that's bad. Just in case you were wondering, that is bad.
And somehow they're still top 10.
That's how that is. That. That's for Nottingham, not for West Ham. For Nottingham, they're in 16th. Yeah, for West Ham, it's not as bad. They had that 3-game win streak there in mid-December that boosted them up, and then since then, they're winless in their last 5, so not great. But yeah, definitely Nottingham Forest. Nottingham Forest is really they really need this one because they are in relegation territory again. They only have 2 points on Everton right now, and again, Everton could. I don't know how their appeal process is going for those 10 points, but they could get an injection here that saves them. And I said that a couple weeks ago that the only way I think they stay up is if they get some points back. But that is not something you want to put some money in. You don't want to put your faith in getting an appeal to overturn some of the deduction. But 2-1. Speaking of no confidence, we move to my Wolves at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Taking on those Spurs, those big old rooster boys. I'm sure people call them that, right? Spurs and Wolves. How do my boys in gold go?
Well, 3 of the last 4 times these 2 teams have played each other, Wolves has gotten the better of Tottenham. So because of that, I'm going to go 2-2 draw. Because I think Wolves, they're a resilient squad. I think they come back, they overcome the loss of Brentford, and I think they get a point because they know that they need a point to really stay not safe, but you don't really want to be dropping into 13, 14, 15 range. They want to stay in that 10, 11, 9 range. So I think they get a point. Tottenham might come into this feeling like we're at home, we're definitely going to get the win. So I don't know. Wolves could catch them.
I would certainly like that. I've got it as a 2-1 victory for Tottenham. I'm actually going to do a little. I'm going to pull a mulligan here because I think we have looked better on offense recently. On the attack, I think it goes actually 3-2 Wolves. I still have us losing, but I have it being more exciting, and maybe there's and that there's there's a lot of action at the last part. Both of us pressing for a win because Tottenham does want to keep the pressure on because they've been. Let's see, They've only lost once in the last 9. So they have been doing well recently. And they're trying to keep pressure and keep in reach of the guys up top. Liverpool has 7 points on them. But you got to keep pace with them. And with some easy matches for some of the other sides at the top of the table, they need to convert here against my Wolves, who are more of a mid-table team and definitely more of a threat than like a Burnley or a Brentford that Liverpool and Arsenal have to play invertedly. So I think they still get the 3 points. Also, they're at home. That helps. Then we go to... where are we going? We are going to Manchester... What? Yes. Manchester City versus Chelsea. A revitalized Chelsea. So I actually do have this one as a 3-0 victory for Manchester City because they're good. And I think that they will. They have certainly been on a tear these past few weeks. Let's see, they've won 6 in a row, 7 out of the last 8, with the only other one being a 2-2 draw for against Crystal Palace back in, when was that? That was on December 16th. Their last dropping of points was December 16th against Crystal Palace, and they've got it at home. So I think that the home side helps. I think that Chelsea has a bit of a letdown after their good result against Crystal Palace, their dominant result against Crystal Palace. And City, I think we see a more fully fit Erling Haaland in this one, and he gets a brace.
This has the feeling to me of a 6-1 City win.
Okay.
And I only say that because our defense is playing much better as far as not leaking in 2-3 goals. We're just leaking in 1. But, Chelsea has been all over the place. They picked up a couple new injuries. They show their immaturity now that we have Erling Haaland and De Bruyne back.
Yeah.
I really like Chelsea's defense is not good. So it just has that feeling to me that City will get a couple goals early and just run away with it. But again, could be wrong, as I often am, as you see the stats, but it's got that feeling. It's got that feeling.
Yeah, City they haven't put the foot down a lot this season like they have in previous ones where they hit the accelerator and scream America. Well, they scream Manchester or whatever. But they have won those matches. They've let off a little bit. Hopefully, now that they've got a full side back, they can do a little bit more of that 6-1 victories. 6 is a lot, but it could happen. It could happen. Then that wraps up the match day for Saturday. Then we move to Sunday with the early match being Sheffield United and Brighton Hove Albion. They're at Bramall Lane in Sheffield. Do Sheffield get anything out of this, do you think?
I think Sheffield's going to be riding a high from beating Luton. Because they're at home, because Brighton also lost 4-0 to Luton. By deduction, if Sheffield beat Luton 3-1 and Brighton lost 4-0 to Luton, Sheffield's at least going to get a point. So I'm going to go 2-2. 2-2.
Ipso facto, they get a point. I agree. I actually also have it as a 2-2 draw for Sheffield United versus Brighton, who you can't rely on for anything at this point. Brighton, they are a different team every week, it seems. Losing 2-1 to Tottenham, beating Crystal Palace 4-1, losing to Luton 4-0, and that was right after their goalless drought there in earlier in January, where they had scored in every match of the season, and they didn't score for, I think it was 3 matches, which is strange to say the least. So I think Sheffield does get a point out of this, and maybe hold on, let me double check here what I've got here. So I think that will get them out of 20th, the first time that they've been out of 20th. If results hold, and Burnley doesn't get a point, that will put them the first time out of 20th since they dropped down there in week 14. So after 11 weeks in last, they maybe could, not have a breath of fresh air because they're still 7 points down from Luton. Yeah. But, they can maybe start to think about crawling their way back. Maybe show some resilience. I don't know. Maybe not. Speaking of needing some resilience, we've got Lutontown taking on, I can't read my own handwriting. What does that say? Manchester United. That's Man United. Manchester United. At Kenilworth Road. I actually think that Luton takes it 2-1. They've been good this past month-ish. They drew Newcastle 4-4, beat Brighton 4-0. The Sheffield match was weird because they looked totally discombobulated in it. which they had not previously. And I think that Manchester United will be feeling their oats, I think is a phrase, and take this one for granted. But Kenilworth Road is a pretty hostile environment for it being so small. And I think Luton takes it 2-1.
Yeah, the lights in my room just came on, just like the lights in my head just came on. I think Luton plays well. I think they've been playing more purposeful in the attack for sure. Their defense still hasn't been great, as with a side that's like not an established Premier League team. Man U's been playing very well recently. It's hard for me to not give them the full 3 points. With it being at the fortress that is Kenilworth Road, I think I have to go 2-2 draw. Because we've only seen a couple of wins at Kenilworth Road. We've seen teams walk in there expecting a win. Some of them have gotten that win, but others have not. So I think it'll be good. I mean, the fact that Luton sits 17th and their goal difference is only -12 is very impressive. So that shows that they have not been losing by a lot. So I think they have it in them to get a point off of Man U.
Yeah, I think that could very well be the case. And then we move to the last match of the weekend, which is actually on Monday, the 19th. Everton hosts Crystal Palace at Goodison Park. Everton winless in their last 7, the worst streak in the league. Boy, and just not instilling any confidence. How do you think they handle a diminished Crystal Palace?
This feels like the most classic 1-1 game. I just think both teams aren't very inspired. Both teams have injuries. Both teams are kind of not really wanting to lose. So they need points. So I don't know. I think they both maybe Everton first half goal, Crystal Palace second half, but neither team I think has the stuff to get the win.
Yeah, I mean, I've got it as a 3-0 victory for Crystal Palace.
Wow.
Yeah, where's this coming from? I think it's coming. I think it's coming more from Everton giving up the ghost a little bit than Crystal Palace being very good. Everton has really, they had that brief burst back just after the international break where they won 4 in a row between weeks 14 to 17. They have not won since that 2-0 victory over Burnley. I don't show any sign of that stopping. I mean, they held their opposing sides goalless in that 4-game victory. Since then, they've conceded 2. They've conceded 3. There was a 0-0 draw they had in there, another 0-0 draw, and then 2 and 2. So they've been giving up goals with relative frequency. And I think that Crystal Palace just is able to get, I think one of them is a pin. We'll say one of them is a pin, so, nothing crazy. But I do think that Everton loses 3, and it gives Crystal a little bit more breathing room. It'll put them 8 points up on Everton, 8 points up on 18, and that will certainly help them calm down a little bit. But it'll be interesting. We've got a very tight bottom of the table here, and if they pull off the 1 point there for Everton, if it stays, if it goes 1-1 your way, I mean, we've got a lot of teams within striking distance of being relegated. As packed as the top of the table is, the bottom of the table kind of mirrors it. Especially with that 18th. I mean, we'll see what happens with 19 and 20 because they're both at 13, so a little bit further down. But that 18th spot is several teams are still in play for that. I mean, Fulham, depending on how this week goes, may claw their way out of it because they're currently at 29, so a full 10 points clear. But, you can drop points fast in the Premier League if you're not careful. But that takes us to the end of Matchday 25, the week that will be Matchday 25. And before we go, we do have to get to our trivia question from last week. Last episode, not last. Well, technically, it's wait, what happened? Yeah, from earlier this week. That's what's happening. The question was, I believe you have a little bit of a follow up on what the trivia question is. So I'll let you restate it before we answer it.
We have a foible because my source was not recent. The question was, which English team had won the Champions League but not been in the Premier League? The answer was Nottingham Forest. They are, in fact, in the Premier League and have been the last 2 years. So if you got that one right, you probably didn't because you were looking through the list and you said, I don't know who this could be.
Yeah. And if you recall from the last episode, I was like, boy, I would have said, I think I said it in the episode that, boy, that sounds like Nottingham Forest, but they're in the Premier League now. And I think I believe I said it during the episode, you see Keegan there do a double take in his list, like, uh-oh. Because
it was a tough one for me to swallow. I'll do better.
Listen, 2 years ago, great trivia question because I had not heard of Nottingham Forest before they made their way up to the Premier League. But that is why they have the 2 stars. If you didn't know, Nottingham Forest has the 2 stars on their crest because they've won the Champions League twice. As crazy as that sounds, it is true. But yeah, that is the trivia answer for a question we didn't quite ask. Anyways, that brings us to the end of this episode. Hey, if you liked what you heard, if you're still around, why don't you go ahead and drop a like and a subscribe and a comment. Flynn, we did better this week, you're right, as far as the Premier League picks were concerned. Champions League, about par for the course. We'll see how this weekend goes. As I said, I'm feeling super confident. We're doing better in this recently. So, let's keep it going. But until we're back on the other side of the weekend, why don't you go ahead and grab some coffee, watch some soccer, and we will see you on the other side. Bye, y'all.